You're allowed to. Okay, I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item is the executive session.
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session at 5:30 PM for two purposes. The first purpose is to consider the sale of property at competitive bidding. If premature disclosure or information would be given unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage to personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. And the second reason is for preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Who's going to?
To include
Mr. Huber, if he can make it, Keith, Dean O'Shuley from DNS Benefits, and myself.
Danny usually seconds, I need somebody else second.
Oh,
Sorry. Clerk, please call the roll.
Liam?
yes.
Hilbert?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss the items, and we'll be coming back out of executive session to reconvene the Finance Committee, and we will be taking action on the items discussed in executive session. We're going to go upstairs for executive session, so everybody get down here, hang out, have fun. We'll be back. Okay, I'd like to reconvene back in the Finance Committee. Is there?
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session for three topics. The first topic is to consider the sale of property at competitive bidding. The second one is preparing, conducting, or reviewing negotiations, bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their terms or conditions of employment. And the third one is pending or imminent litigation.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Liam?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Hilbert?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Colasar?
We'll be recessing in executive session, discussing those things that Mr. Shields said, coming back and taking action on some of them, for sure this time. We'll be back.
Yeah, there's more time.
Okay, we're back from executive session. There's an item on the agenda later on, we'll discuss that we discussed in executive session. Second item here, we have, so we'll reconvene the Finance Committee at 6:13. Request for council action, we have several for finance, 17-195, agreement for health insurance with Medical Mutual of Ohio, 17-196, amending chapter 13301 association memberships, 17-197, budget amendments, 17-198, amending salaries and benefits code section 3107, building and properties custodian, 17-199, amending salaries and benefits code section 3105, police department, 17-200, credit card fees, finance IT departments, 17-201, RFPs, drug screening and related professional services, 17-202, increased PO, L3 communications, police department, 17-203, South Prospect emergency transfer of water service laterals, 17-204, agreement to install sidewalks on Foundry Street, 17-205, discussion Save Historic Tax Credits campaign, 17-206, increased PO, Lake County Sewer Co. Street Department. 17-195, agreement for health insurance with Medical Mutual Ohio. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. At our renewal this year, our claims history has been pretty flat, as it was the year before. From 2016 to 2017, the city unusually experienced no increase in our healthcare premiums, which benefits the city and benefits the employees, and as a result, the residents. This year, because of having 2 years in a row, both Medical Mutual and United Healthcare were both in an effort to get the city's business. And Dean O'Shuley is here from DS Benefits Group if there's questions for the record. But at the end of the day, Medical Mutual of Ohio came in with a discount that also we had another 1.4% discount from having a relationship with the Akron Chamber of Commerce. And the 1.4 from the Akron Chamber plus the 6.3 or 4 from Medical Mutual itself is a grand total of 7.46% less, which is almost $170,000 than what we paid this year. And I respectfully ask council to approve the switch from United Healthcare to Medical Mutual.
Mr. Shuley, anything to add?
I think the mayor summed it up very well. It's a negative renewal.
And I think we talked about a little bit about the programs that go along with it, that United Healthcare was providing, specifically Healthy Medina program, assistance in that, and Medical Mutual will have same or similar program to that, would assist in it also. So, and there may be even variances that may be better. We have yet to see that with respect to their programs. But again, the savings of that much money over, at least for 1 year, and if you recall, we do this a 5-year budget, and if it was, it'd be compounded, most likely, in the next 5 years. And we talked about setting that money aside and lowering the percentages for future years so we could have a better projection of what the healthcare expense would be for the city, because right now, $2 million is a lot for the premiums that we pay. And 5 years from now, if we compounded that at normally what we do is 12 or 15%, you can see that gets quite large. So we appreciate all the help that you've done, and it looks like it's a good benefit for the city and saving money, taxpayers' dollars for the future years. And it seems like the discussions and keeping the other programs in place is going to be beneficial. Any other questions?
Move to approve. With the emergency clause.
Second. Second with the emergency clause. Now, let me just make a quick comment. That, we talked about this, and it is a significant savings for the city. United Healthcare, I think I can talk about it now, can I?
We can start fresh now.
No, I mean, overall, United Healthcare has been good to us. The savings here is significant. I believe overall, though, it's close to 50,000 savings compared to what United Healthcare came back with a revised plan, which 44,000 some change is still significant. So I appreciate all the work that was done to save that taxpayer money that the mayor spoke about. And I'll second with the emergency clause.
If I could also, before you vote, John, I'd like to put a plug in for the wellness program. Dino's office has been very involved, the hospital's been very involved, and our employees have been very involved. And without a doubt, as you look at the claims history for the past 2 years, and even the years before that, we saw a few spikes. But part of that was folks that had never been to the doctor before, had never had a checkup to find out they might have prediabetes or high blood pressure or a variety of things. So once those folks were checked and then on some sort of maintenance program or changing lifestyles, I strongly feel that what we're seeing are the positive effects of that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a correlation between the Healthy Medina and the involvement with the employees with our healthcare coverage.
Right. And so the credit goes to the hospital, to Dino's office, to the city for working to implement the program, as well as the employees for, we have probably 88% of people taking part in it, which is outstanding.
Yep.
And they're healthier and doing better as a result.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks a lot. 17196 is amending chapter 13301 association memberships, which is kind of goes along with the mayor discussing this healthcare and joining the Akron Chamber of Commerce.
So to join the Chamber of Commerce, it's $400 annually for the city. And by joining the Chamber of Commerce, they give us an additional 1.4% reduction by being insured by Medical Mutual. 1.4% of our premium, which is just a little over $2.1 million, is $29,400. So we expend $400 and get back $29,400. So in essence, we're coming ahead $29,000.
Good thing.
Yes, sir. So we're asking, because we need to get all this paperwork signed to get the cards issued next month, to permit the membership to go to City Council tonight. And then at the 27th, November 27th meeting, pass the healthcare change. And as long as we do that by the end of the month, that'll give us the month of December to get all the paperwork filed, and cards issued, and all those things.
Mayor, there wouldn't be any reason the chamber would deny us membership.
give them 400 here.
That's all I wanted to hear.
So explain to me one more time how you give $400 to a Chamber of Commerce in Akron, and we save $29,000.
That's the benefit of the association joining the chamber. They negotiate that deal with Medical Mutual.
Just by being a member. If you're a member of the chamber,
Right.
you get as a member, you get the benefits of the chamber. I think that's,
Right.
I understand that.
And for the chamber, they're hoping then that the chamber will send people their way from Medical Mutual, so that's why Medical Mutual is.
So Medical Mutual is like a legacy company to the Chamber then? Is that,
I don't know if it's a, what do you mean by legacy?
well, the National Chamber gets 50% of their money from about 65 companies. Major companies contribute money to the National Chamber, and most of them are considered legacy companies. And I understand it in black and white, I mean, I can read. But I'm just wondering, how is the $400 get a $29,000 discount from the healthcare company?
I don't know about a legacy, I wouldn't know that. The chamber also has a relationship with Summa Health Plans.
They have relationships with
Well, just those two.
all sorts of big companies, right, like that, similar things, those pass-through kind of funds. I'm just curious how do you create you join for 400 and we give you you get a $29,000 discount?
Well, what it is, it's MMO and Summa, who work with the Akron Chamber, are hoping that they're doing the marketing to bring clients in the Medical Mutual. So for that, there's a discount that Medical Mutual is willing to give them, because Medical Mutual is not using their marketing dollars, the Chamber is using theirs to try to get people into the Medical Mutual fund. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think every chamber in Ohio has a relationship with a health carrier, not necessarily Medical Mutual, but mostly with Anthem, I think.
Right. But we don't have that relationship with the local Chamber of Commerce then?
I don't think the local chamber.
With that
participates
healthcare
with
company.
Medical Mutual, correct.
Right. We are a member of the local chamber, but the local chamber does not get this discount. That's why the one time when we had Summa, we went with Wadsworth.
Right.
any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second with the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 17-197, we have budget amendments. Oh,
Can I address this healthcare through the budgeting?
oh, yes, go ahead, sorry.
When we finished up the budgets, I said we would get the budget sheets to you once the healthcare numbers were final, so I'll be working on that, hopefully it'll be this week. And I just want to remind you, what we pay for in a year is 11 months of that year and 1 month of the future year, so the numbers that I use will be 2% higher than what we're paying here in order to provide us with a buffer, so that if next year we get a rate increase, when we get to December of 18, we will have enough money to be able to pay the January 19 premium, because we're paying a month ahead. And then I wanted to ask Dino while he's here, what percentages we want to use for the out years, make sure you guys are on board with what we're going to do there.
I'll get that to you.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll get back to
we're
you.
pretty high right now. I think we were 15 and
I
then
think it was
12.
15 and then 12s,
Right.
and then I'll get back with Dino, and then we'd mentioned this budget stabilization reserve we're going to do in the general fund, so we can use part of that increase, but when Dino gets me those numbers, we'll go with that.
Just so I'm clear, you're doing 2% for December, not 2% per month.
No, 2% of the whole year's premium, which gives me 24% of 1 month's premium. So if the 19 premium goes up by up to 24%, we would still have enough money to pay the January 19 premium in December. That's what we've done the last few years, is just added 2%.
24% seems high to me.
But 1% wouldn't be enough. I mean, it might not, because that'd be 12, and we've been told 15 before usually is the first year.
But we have 12, plus we have the reserve that is going to, $169,000.
We'd have to reappropriate that at the end of the year in December when the bills came.
Well, I guess look at that and see what the numbers you come up with, then we can make a determination of if we want to go to, the 169 is being held back for the claims and all that, we can figure out. I guess the goal would be to be as close to realistic as possible,
Yeah, that's my concern.
looking out 5 years from now, of how much healthcare is gonna cost us. It's a moving target, I understand that.
Right.
So, okay. All right. We have 2017-042 bicentennial donations.
These are just pass-throughs. We have to appropriate the money in order to be able to spend it.
I'll make a motion, but I just really appreciate seeing this list. There's a lot of people donating money to the bicentennial celebrations. I'm very appreciative of that. I move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. At 2017-043 bicentennial donations, same thing.
Yep.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2017-041 building permits.
Part of this was already covered, but that was because we had an immediate need. This should cover us for the rest of the year. And again, this is a percentage of the building permits we have to remit to the state, and this is where that money passes through. So the reason this is occurring is because we sold more than we have in prior years.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17194 fair market value estimates for Guilford Bridge rehab. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. We discussed this at the last Finance Committee meeting. At the time, we hadn't yet received the estimate. We do have that now. This has to do with our Guilford Boulevard Bridge project. We have to acquire one parcel, not the entire parcel, but I think it's .133 acres of land from a private property owner. The appraisal came in at $1,635. So by approving this tonight, we will be accepting that appraisal and authorizing the mayor to sign that appraisal, and also authorizing our right-of-way consultant to make that offer to the property owner.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second with the emergency clause, and we have 1637 on our, I know it's $2, but on a request for council action, so.
I think the RCA was before we actually got the associated
Oh.
paperwork. Oh, so that's the $2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's 1635.
Right.
Sounds good.
I do have one question. Pat, I don't know if you have the answer to this, but on the estimate from the appraiser, in the 1CH parcel number, there's a dollar number and then 50% less. What's the reason for the reduction?
I could look into that. I don't know offhand. I can't tell you the appraisal, because of the federal money involved, that's why we have to go through this process. There's two independent appraisers involved, the initial one and then a review appraiser. They double check each other.
Okay,
So apparently they agreed on that. I'll see if I can find out, but I don't know offhand.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17198, amending salaries and benefits code 3107 for the building and properties custodian. Dan? Who's this? Lorraine? Oh, Lorraine, oh, that's why you came. I was trying to get Dan to say something about this. All right, go ahead.
All right. Back in 2009, we used to have a custodian here at City Hall, and it was part of that.
Efficiency study.
There you go, thank you. Efficiency study, Mayor Lever at the time asked to have done, and that position was asked to be eliminated. So we did eliminate it, and in the process, we also eliminated, either I did not catch it, that we had a custodian still over at the municipal court building. And that person is now retiring, so the court was asking for a job description. So I went to pull up a job description and I saw that it was removed from our salaries and benefits code. So I'm asking to correct that. We still have a building and properties custodian over at the courthouse. And I'm asking to recognize that and put the job description back into the
And what was the pay grade on that again?
31A through F. Thanks, Nina.
But we don't know that whoever the new judge would be, where they would put them, or if the new judge would even want this custodian over there. Because I guess that's the other question. But we need this for this person to retire, I take it.
Right, we do, but they do need a custodian over at the court at all times.
If I may, we've asked fill in when that person's on vacation or ill or extended leave, so they do have the necessity or the need to have that position.
Well, there's no control, they can start them at 31F if they wanted to, I think. There's no, by us council, we can't make them start at 31A.
They really should start at 31A.
They should, that's a good point.
Because it's a position in the salaries and benefits code.
Right, but they don't, there's no obligation to start at any particular pay, as long as it's in the 31
But if they wanted to do it at a higher, they would need finance committee,
Okay,
they would need your signature.
okay. To go from an A to a B or a C or.
Yes,
Okay, everything Good?
yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Amending salary, 17-199, amending salaries and benefits code 3105 for the police department.
And if you want me to do that.
I can do it if you want. So Lorraine caught, for whatever reason, although this is the way it's been done, all the other department heads are appointed by the mayor and then confirmed by the council. And for whatever reason, as you look at the payroll code, the chief of police was just appointed by the mayor, but no mention of confirmation from council, although the past practice has always been to do that. So this is just to clean it up so that they're all the same. It makes sense to me, not only from where I am now, but for the future, that there's agreement between the administration and the council.
Oh, yeah.
So, we don't know, how long has this been in effect? Do we have any idea?
How long has this been like this?
I think it's been that way for always.
Because the last one, we went through the confirmation
Yeah.
process.
Right.
Mhm.
Jay Verducci?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we went through the whole process. and-
You've been telling third graders incorrectly.
Uh-oh. All right, no, I think that we have to be consistent, and we always thought it was like that, so.
Right.
You know, we did that one anyways.
I'm glad you're just sitting around reading these codes. Keep it up, we got a big book of them.
See, well, things are running well.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17-200, credit card fees for the finance and IT.
Darren, I talked to Darren about this, he asked me to submit the RCA, but he might be the one to talk about it as well. I asked you about credit card fees back when we started taking utility payments online. A lot of cities pass those fees through. You didn't want to do it with those, we wanted to bring it back because this is a different thing. One is utility signups, those will be customers of ours. We're also going to be having people, will be able to sign up for employment tests online. And those aren't going to be, well, one of them will hopefully be an employee of the city, but I mean, if there's 30 people who apply, the other 29 are not going to have any future relationship with the city. So the question is, do we want to absorb those credit card fees, or this company that Darren's working with that will be doing this has the ability to pass those fees on, so that if you were signing up for the job, you would get a, let's say the fee was $20, you would get a window that said, there's a credit card fee of $1.50. If you do the sign up online, you'll pay $21 for whatever that fee was going to be. Kind of the question is, do you want us to put together the wording to do that?
Well, how
or
much
do
are
you
we
want us to
talking?
handle it?
So for the online utility signups, it's gonna be a $100 thing, so it works out to be $3.20 for the credit card transaction.
Per utility sign-up.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the other one?
And then the testing, if I got the numbers right, Lorraine, communications is $10, so you're talking 59 cents. And the police department's $40, so you're talking $1.46.
I don't know, I'm still kind of, I want to think a lot more about the utility charging for, and I guess, because it's going to be citywide, everything's going to go through utility billing, let's say, and credit card usage, and do we want to charge that through, and, or
It's
don't?
convenience, and I mean, my employer, we, you know, somebody pays with a credit card, they get hit with a fee because we get hit with a fee. So, I don't know, I mean, to me,
That's a question.
I'm fine with passing along to.
I don't know yet, but what about you, Paul?
I'm in agreement with passing along the fee for the employment testing. I'd have to think a little bit more about the utilities, but I'm kind of leaning towards
I
charging.
think I'm the other way. I would not pass it on for those small amounts of a test. And one of the things we learned from communications, once we lowered the amount, it was easier to get more people to apply, which gave us better
Much
group of
better
candidates,
question,
so I would be okay with the utility, but not with the testing.
I think for Jim's right, but for such a small amounts, I don't think it's worth the hassle of passing those on. The utility stuff, I pay almost all my stuff personally online, and I only have one company that I have to pay a fee to, and I just mail a check instead. So I think the
But
majority of
they're
companies
per-
do
per-
not.
Excuse me, per profit, if I can spit it out. So we're not, so that's, I'm getting it.
True.
I mean, I agree. What's that?
Look at all these taxpayer dollars.
Well, that's the thing, is that, I mean, maybe with the.
And these are taxpayers, I guess is the question. So people live in Medina are already taxpayers and they're paying it, so they're already paying taxes, I guess. I mean, that's the way you can look at it, but, Bill? How do you feel?
I agree with Mark. I mean, it's a fee, pass it along.
You're already paying for it, kind of, because you already pay taxes in the city. That's right.
Mr. President,
Yes.
just so you, I know Keith said it, just so when we currently, people pay us our utilities online with credit card, we don't pass that cost along.
Right.
So this would be a deviation from it. For signing up for the utilities, you would be passing the cost along. But then for paying the utilities, you wouldn't be.
So it's just a fee to sign up.
So it's a one-time
It's
fee.
a one-time
Yes,
fee
sir.
to sign up.
Mr. Wright in the back?
So for consistency, we pay about $30,000 in credit card fees a year for members, using credit cards at the rec center. We passing those fees on to the members also.
That's what we're talking about. But you have a large carry for it, but you like to pay those, I think. Well, I guess, I don't know, I guess that's probably a bigger discussion that we're gonna have. I mean, if we're gonna do something, we should be consistent to whatever we do. I think throughout the city, we shouldn't pick and choose departments of what to charge and what not to charge. I think we would have to think about those pass-through or non-pass-through. Is there still an opportunity with respect to credit cards to pay by check, or is it mandatory that you have to pay by credit card?
No, we're not changing the current process. If people want to come in and sign up online utilities, they do it same as business as usual, but if they want to take advantage of the convenience and do it online, they'll be able to do that.
But don't we want to do that? Because that saves the city money if people do it online, because they do all the work then. Or does that not really work out that way?
Well, sure, I mean, ideally, you'd save a little bit of overhead, I'm sure, in those departments, with the paperwork and getting all of it online, but
So there is a benefit to
there
the
are
paying online.
going to be people that just don't choose.
What, do you guys want to try to make a decision now, or think about it and talk about it again, or what do you want
I
to
have
do?
a question for Keith that may help us. If somebody comes in with a check, what's it cost us to cash that check?
We have bank fees. I don't know if I have a per check fee, but we do have bank fees. The checks we don't send to the bank anymore. We scan them and send them, and I think there is an item fee, but I don't know off the top of my head what that is.
Okay, but there is a fee regardless of whether we get a check or a charge card.
I'm pretty sure the fee on the checks is less, but I'd have to
Okay.
check what it is.
All right, well, let's hold that and talk about that some more, but that is something that we probably should try to make a determination on. I think the current standing is that we really don't pass those fees on, but we got to make a determination, do we want to change that policy to pass the fees on, or to keep it as it is?
Well, I agree with you on one thing, is we probably ought to be consistent. We should probably make sure we're doing the same thing across the board.
And I guess then the next time we talk about this, if we can get, what's the universe we're talking about here? Because the universe is going to get bigger, I would imagine. And this is including court, because the court, we're not even thinking about that part of it. They're going to have a lot of people pay online, I would imagine, which is a benefit. If people pay online, then you don't maybe need as much staffing, but there's trade-offs.
Well, I guess we got to crunch and figure out what those numbers are.
Right.
I mean, Paul brings up a good point. If somebody's paying with a check and we get a hit with a fee there, I guess there's going to be some.
I don't know that you necessarily, I mean, consistency sounds important to you, but I guess I would like to know how important that is, because when you look at like Nancy over there at the court, some of these departments are in a different situation than others. I mean, if you're paying your speeding ticket you got at the court, you don't have a choice. You have to pay us. You can either come in and pay by check, or you can pay by credit card, but you don't have a choice to go somewhere else. Whereas Mike, with the rec center, if we're selling a service, I mean, you could go work out some other place. So we have to be competitive with the
wanna
rec
do-
center. We
right.
don't have to be competitive on.
Well, we don't want them to make the decision based upon a small fee like that, I guess is the point. I mean, overall, it's a large fee, but I guess what I'm talking about with the court, and maybe even with the rec center, if more people pay online, I guess you wouldn't need as many people to handle the flow of payments by check. Like at the court, we had discussion with Nancy, remember, she wanted 6 windows for people to pay. It's like, well, why do we have all these windows if you can pay online? Maybe you only need 2 windows. I mean, I don't know, I'm just saying that. You know what I'm talking about?
But,
I do know what you're talking about. I just want somebody to come in front of us and tell us what that savings is. If we're gonna make a decision on these fees.
I understand,
you
yeah.
know, Who's gonna
I mean-
quantify that?
We'll probably have to get some more information on it. I mean, I guess we could either do it through finance or put it in a committee to have the committee work on it. What do you guys think?
Just look at it.
Who's gonna look at it, finance or the committee?
which committee?
Which committee, because really it is a finance.
It'd be
committee.
special
Finance committee.
legislation.
It's gotta be the finance.
Well, I mean, it's new law. We're creating new
It's
law.
true.
We're changing the law of the city. Do we have any preference? Okay, we'll keep it in finance then. Okay,
I have a
okay.
couple of questions that you want me to answer for next time. I just want to make sure I've covered
Well-
everything. What is our check processing fee? And then I wrote down here, because I'm not sure, so I wrote down to check with Nancy if she's charging a fee, because she might be already.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I don't know.
And
that she
Mike,
would have
Mike's
been
involved, with- who
authorized.
else is gonna be involved with paying online?
Well, yeah, I wanna know what it's costing the city,
The building
department-wide,
department?
and all departments, with people making payments for the rec center, utilities.
So you want the total credit card fees
Yeah, I
that we're
wanna see
paying
what
as a
we're
city?
paying out, because.
And then we gotta compare that with what do we pay out of bank fees for checks? What's the difference? Is it huge, is it small, is it?
So I will get the check processing fee, the total credit card fees that we're paying as a city, and what Nancy's doing, because I'm not sure over there.
Right, because I guess there's a question of service, there's a question of perception, there's a lot of different questions you're answering
Right.
with this. You don't wanna nickel and dime people, but again, you wanna be fair.
Does that cover everything everybody wants for me?
So far, we'll have more questions, I'm sure.
I'm sure you'll have more next time, but I just want to make sure I answer the ones you
Well,
have
I
now.
think we want to know by department also, like if somebody pays the building department, do we charge a fee for that?
I don't, I will see what I can do on those breakouts. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to have that, because we pay our bank fees out of the general fund. So everything that comes through my window, we're paying a bank fee for, and I don't know if I can tell you how many of those credit card fees were related to building department versus how many were, because people, rent the gazebo or a pavilion or whatever, or pay a fee for a test, or pay their water bill, and since we run it through one bank account, I don't know that I can tell you whose fees that came from, I'm not sure. I'll look, but I'm not positive that I can do that.
But are we charging a fee, are we passing a fee along to anybody?
Right now, other than possibly the court, because I'm not sure what they do,
So nobody else at City Hall right now would pass?
nobody else is doing it.
I
brought
don't
it
think
to
we
you
passed
when
any
started-
legislation to allow them to pass it on. Wouldn't we have to approve something for them to pass it on? They just couldn't do it.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
The only reason I excluded that one is because I don't
Right.
know for sure that she's not. So I just wanted to check before I tell you she's not.
Okay.
No,
All
we
right.
discussed this, remember?
Yeah,
When
we
we
did.
first went to credit cards at the finance
Yes.
window, we discussed, should we, shouldn't we?
Right.
And we said no,
Right.
then, so,
Yep.
okay.
That's
It's not
where-
like we're doing this on our own.
No, this is the change of policy. If you want to change the policy, and
Understood.
I guess I don't know where I'm at that right now. I
Now
mean,
now
because-
Nancy's question, I don't know, that the elected clerk and the elected judge have, by ORC, a variety. of-
Certain abilities.
Yes, and I don't know if it is or it isn't. I'm not saying that's the case, but
Okay. Well, we'll find that out too.
they'll be quick to tell us if it is.
Sure. They certainly will. Okay, so we'll hold that one and put that on again. You got that, Kathy? You good? That'd be good. 17201, RFPs for drug screening and related professional services. Who's going to do this one, Matt?
Yes. Integrity Verifications is doing it currently. We generally have at least 2, sometimes 3 vendors that bid annually on this, and we just like to do it each year just to keep it honest and give everybody an opportunity.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17202, increase PO L3 communications for the police department. Chief-elect Kenny?
This is an increase to the L3 communications PO by $2,500 for body cameras replacements and new body cameras for new employees.
Questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carries. 17203, South Prospect Street, emergency transfer of water service laterals. Mr. Pacoli, this has to be you.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. So on South Prospect between Lafayette and the Smith Road, we have 2 water mains. 4-inch main that dates, best our records can tell, 1907. You know that because the hydrant is stamped with that date. And then there's an 8-inch main that is 1985. So there are approximately 45 homes in that block. 31 of the homes, best of our records can indicate, are on the 4-inch main that we'd like to abandon because we've been getting complaints of discolored water. And we'd like to transfer these laterals onto the 1985 main, which there are 14 residents currently on that main. So the long and short of it is, for over a year, we've been getting some complaints with respect to discoloration, clouded water. And we've basically exhausted all our efforts with respect to trying to find the cause. We've changed the valve configuration, shutting the valve off at Lafayette, opening at the Smith side, reversing that. We've opened up hydrants over long periods of time. So the best thing to do is to abandon that 4-inch main. So Patrick was instrumental in helping out. We talked to the mayor, and he solicited some costs or prices from a contractor, 4 of which. And we'd like to start that project as soon as time would allow. Understanding it's a hardship for some of the residents. When we transfer these laterals from the 4-inch main onto the 8-inch main, if we come across any galvanized service lines, we'd like to have those folks upgrade to copper. Some of these galvanized lines probably corroded to the point where there's little water passing through, and it doesn't make sense to put them on a newer main and then have them hooked up to a galvanized
So those
line.
service lines connect to the house?
They do.
So it'd be from
curb
the...
stop to the residence.
So the 8-inch line is paralleling or adjacent to the 4-inch line currently?
The 8-inch main is on the west tree lawn of South Prospect. The 4-inch main is in the southbound lane of Prospect.
So you might have to go under the street?
We will bore, the contractor will bore the long sides, as referred to them, where the main is on.
So what would be the
opposite side.
cost associated with a resident getting a service line from the 8-inch to their
I'm
house?
glad you asked that question. Typically, it's about $4,000 from the plumber, right? So we've talked to several plumbers. Dyna-American has agreed for $1,000, they'll run per dwelling, per household, from the street, from the curb stop to the house with the plumbing.
Now, what if they can't afford that? Is there a payment
That's
plan?
another good question, so we have that answer as
You
well.
guys
We have a
talk-
policy, whenever
this
we've
is- we're
upgraded
doing
in the
pretty good.
past, when we've upgraded mainline work with Patrick's projects in the past, and we come across a leak on a galvanized line, if there's a hardship, the city has paid for that installation of the service lateral to upgrade to copper, and then basically deferred payments. We talked to Keith a little bit in the past, we're looking at possibly 2 years for payback for that service. And we would front the cost for that.
No, what's a hardship?
Someone that, we're going there this Thursday, and like, you have a galvanized line you need to upgrade, and then they tell us they can't afford it. It's, that's a difficulty, it's a burden.
It's one of those things you don't have the time
You
to
know, how did 14 get on the new line, but 31 did not?
We talked about that. Pat might know the answer to that one. I honestly
I
don't
don't
know.
know why in 1985 they didn't just switch everybody over, but they didn't.
Do you think it was maybe because of the hardship?
I don't know, maybe, but I know since that time, several residents have on their own replaced their lateral, they've copper. And our water department kind of has a policy, when you do that, we will put you on the 8-inch line. And that's why a handful of them are copper and are on the 8-inch, but most of them are not.
Well, we're talking about 2 contractors, a contractor do the mainline work, and then a contractor to potentially do the service work and the plumbing as well. And our maintenance crew will assist as needed, as time allows, as work, as the dictate, work would allow them to do so, unless they have water breaks. So if they're available, we'll have them there on the job as well, and we'll have inspection.
So the
on site.
31 properties that got converted,
31 did not get
31 did not.
31 did not, 14 did.
Correct.
Are they consecutive properties, or are they,
They bounce all
No,
over.
they're
We
all
looked
over.
at them, they're mid-block, they're at the end of the block. There's no rhyme or reason.
Does the 8-inch line just run from Lafayette to Smith?
It does, as well as the 4-inch.
So any idea why it was put in?
Don't know that answer. We know the 4-inch is about 1907, again, there's only one hydrant on the 4-inch, and with fire prevention. The 8-inch has 3, so that's why back in previous years, when there was an issue with the hydrant on another big block hydrant on the 4-inch, it was taken out of service.
If you want to get some history on that, Charlie Buchanan comes to all our ward meetings, he's lived on that street forever. I bet you he'd be able to tell you exactly what happened in '85.
Hey, Pat, or Nino, the cloudy water or discoloration, do you think that's from our main line, our 4-inch line, or is that just from the galvanized laterals of the
I think it's probably a
customers?
combination of both. That 4-inch line is over 100 years old, and sure, it's not in good shape.
So, and going back, not to belabor the discussion, we had the bridge project going on, so the valve would be off. We had a hit line there, so the valves would be on and off. So every time this clouded water situation would surface, we would flush, do whatever, change valves, and then it'd settle down for 2, 3, 4 months. And so the field personnel felt that it was taken care of. And then a little later, it surfaced back up, and this has been going on now for a year and several months.
Do you think the corrosion is just from the laterals to the home, if they're galvanized?
That's additional. So you have corrosion in the 4-inch main that's dated back to 1900, so the laterals would be about the same year if they were, depending on when the house is built, so.
Mr. Huber?
Do we know for sure that there's no cloudiness on the hookups to the 8-inch line?
We talked about that. I mean,
Do we
just,
know that, I mean, we're making people reach in their pocketbooks, and, if I'm a homeowner, I wanna know, well, has anybody checked with the people on the 8-inch line to find out for sure that they have no cloudiness?
we've had, the complaints that we received are the folks that are on the 4-inch, to the best of our records.
And we
So
check
nobody's
with people on
complaining.
the 8-inch, so we don't know.
I think they're taking 4-inch residual, but to go in and.
What if it's at the other side, and it's going to both?
I know 1985 pipe and water will be better than 1900. I mean, that's the
Maybe.
position that.
You would hope.
Yes, Mr. Huber, more questions?
My next question is, if you got a homeowner who says, I'm not doing it, well, is that them coming over to the law department, am I suing them?
It's just someone who said they want, you mean, someone if they contend they don't want to be transferred
Come to my door and I
over.
look at you, say, I'm not doing a thing, I'm not doing it.
I guess based on all the complaints we've been receiving and where it's at, we don't know on our end with respect to the field, what else we could do to clear up any more clouded water complaints.
Because you'll be shutting off the 4-inch line, so that person on the 4-inch line won't have any water.
I mean, that's the
I don't
answer,
think
but
they have any, we can transfer them to the 8, they're not gonna be saying that, what they would have a say on is whether or not they want to do.
to upgrade to a copper lateral.
If they would say no, it's likely they're not gonna get good service out of their old lateral, to the point they might not be able to get service.
Well,
When
that's
we
what-
work on this, we're gonna be disturbing a 100-year-old lateral that's probably in terrible condition.
That's my question, I mean, I'm almost positive, because that's how things go. That somebody's gonna say, I'm not doing it, or else hook up to my line, and then my question is, what are we doing? Are we extending from the galvanized old line, because he's not doing it, and running it across, under the street to the 8-inch, or do we know yet?
Our intent was, yes, to run copper from the 8-inch main to the long side or to their service, and we would encourage that someone replace their galvanized line with copper, and I guess if they argue against it, then we move on, and down the road, when it fails, the $1,000 offer to run their service line won't be available. At that point in time, by our code, they have a responsibility and they'll be accountable, is the answer. I mean, that's my approach. I mean, that's the extent we're willing to move to.
And I guess I was thinking even further ahead, it would be wise if they denied it to put something of record so that they sell the house, the new buyer would understand that they're buying an issue that could be substantial. But that's,
Pinch them in a corner.
well, I mean,
If you
the
recall-
seller would have to take care of it, because the buyer would say, you fix it, I'm not buying your house.
Do you remember the Huffman Road
Well, I was in-
pipeline?
yeah,
This is similar to Huffman Road.
Where we
The
abandoned.
water breaks, the corrosive interior, this is the same thing. So we talked about it, and then finally made a move to get them onto the county water, and they've enjoyed great water since that time, and we've not had any problems, obviously. So this is very similar, I guess.
Pat, you're shutting
System.
down the 4-inch line, right?
We're abandoning it.
Yeah.
Cut and cap it.
Okay, what other,
So Well, it has suggested funding. I mean, wouldn't this be a water capital improvement?
I don't think so, yeah, that's why we're having this discussion, I guess.
I mean, it makes sense that use that, and if residents don't want to connect, and just like we said, then they're on their own from where their service line hits the new lateral we're putting up to their property.
So we're gonna put copper from our new lateral, I mean, the 8-inch
8-inch main.
to their
road,
galvanized.
to
And
the-
you can connect those two, copper and galvanized, you can connect.
It can be done, but because you're disturbing, the contractor would be disturbing that galvanized line, you're cutting it, you're digging around it, so you're moving it, and you're cleaning it to get a nice even surface that you can make that connection, so it'll hold, it may not hold, and you're disturbing it. So you would have a 1985 newer water main connected to, with copper, connected to a galvanized 100-year-old service line going to a home.
Well, what's
So-
the pressure difference?
There's
The
no-
pressure, there would be the same, right?
Yeah, there
And
is.
there's
Pressure on the,
Temporary.
It's about 60 pounds running
And
over on.
and does the contractor, is the contractor gonna come back once they dig up the yard and make sure once it settles, they'll level it, or what is that deal with the
We would be
contractor?
responsible for the restoration, and we would decide
Of the
what's in
lateral.
the aprons, yes. I mean, the contractor would.
Because that's gonna happen,
excavate
you know.
and pile it like they do, and they would settle naturally. We're looking at about a 3.5-foot hole, 40 inches versus
Yeah.
5 feet.
Several of these, we're gonna have to dig up the apron, we're replacing a few aprons. It's just where the connection is.
So do we have an agreement with each property owner? Are we drafting up an agreement? Is that the procedure?
That letter that you received about 5 minutes ago is the communication.
I guess the question is, why would we dig up the apron if we're gonna put a new lateral in? Why would we put the lateral
I
where we
missed
want
that, I'm
to?
sorry. What was that, John?
If we're gonna put a new lateral in, why would we dig up the apron to make the connection? Why wouldn't we put the lateral where we want it so we don't have to dig up the apron?
It's a possibility to make that cut. It might be in the apron to make that separation where the current curb box is. I mean, we look at each.
Well, I guess you just put a new line into the house, wouldn't you?
If they choose, if they choose.
Wouldn't it be more cost effective than tearing up the apron? I mean, I don't know, I'm not saying.
If we're putting a new line in the house, you're right, it could be that. If
Wouldn't it be
not,
more, do whoever's the most cost effective way, wouldn't we just do that and say, okay, we're not gonna dig up your apron, we'll just put a new line in?
And we talked about with the boring today, that if we might bore from one excavation, we might be able to do a short side, which is on the side where the 8-inch main is, and then two 45-degree angle long sides across the street, so we're minimizing the excavation, so there's a lot of things that we're talking about doing. But Greg, to answer your question, we don't have an agreement with the public. I mean, we're.
Do you have enough information to move forward?
Yes.
Because it's like Mr. Huber says, questionable.
So,
Well, I would just suggest we put down Pat's phone number instead of Nina's.
Craig, do you think we need an agreement with each of the property owners? I mean, we're calling this an emergency, and we want to get this thing done. If we've got to have people review this agreement, and have their lawyers look at it, and, you know, go through all of that.
Well, to be, if I'm gonna agree to pay $1,000 over time, and I want to make it stick, the right way to do it is to have some form agreement drawn up and have the property owner sign it if it's possible to do that.
That's-
That'd be a better procedure than walking out, having a verbal conversation, and then ending up into some kind of he said, she said situation.
I guess I agree that in the past, like on Oak Street, when we've had reconstruction, we've
I was
had
just gonna,
several
yeah, we had,
where we've had the same scenario and non-agreement, but and if that's what works for everything, we can
Well, if
do
you
it.
think it, you know, there's no ironclad rule, I'm just saying what would probably be better, probably.
Well, we'd want to be able to lien the property owner if they fail to pay.
Shut their water.
We can shut their water.
We can shut their water off, because if we're billing it through water,
yeah, I mean,
it's just gonna be,
I guess you could.
that's what the gas committee did, you know, on all those, on the reconstruction on Oak and West Park, when, that the line was bad.
I mean, in our opinion, the benefit that the customers will be receiving on this project is huge. I mean, in a short amount of time, what we put together, and we've exhausted all the efforts as we explained. I mean, I don't know what else. We even had Ohio Edison out last summer, did us a big favor coming from Akron. They did a ground test on the neutral box to figure out if there was improper grounding from the houses on those streets, because there's theories of not proper grounding to a water line that could cause clouded water. I mean, that's the extent that we went to in investigating these discoloration complaints, to no end.
Craig, would you be more comfortable if, instead of Board of Control approving these individually, or however we've done that, if we had if we spelled out in the code that if we disturb your water line and you don't pay it all at once, we will charge you over 2 years for the repair?
Well, I got this 5 minutes ago. I don't really know the answer to that question. I guess my initial response would be no. If it's worked in the methodology that Nino has outlined, and Pat's comfortable with it, and we can talk to people and get an agreement with them, we can proceed on that basis. I think if we get a little pushback, we probably need to have some kind of an agreement drawn up. That's my thought off the top of my head.
I think we will have a few people that are probably not gonna be in favor. I mean, we're gonna drop this on them if this goes forward over the next several days, and yes, the response would be, why do I gotta do this? I don't wanna do it, so we're gonna have that, but I just intend on dealing with it.
Well, they're gonna say it's the city's problem, give me clean water.
Well, we have an obligation, and the customer does deserve to have clean, potable water.
But they're not gonna understand the lateral
We're
question.
working to get that.
We're doing that
That's my
with.
point.
We're
with
connecting
the
with
eight-inch,
a cleaner 8-inch line and running
Yes.
copper over their service line.
And
The
you
thing
said,
I'm uncomfortable with is I'd like to know that somebody actually knows that hooking up to the 8-inch line does not solves the cloudy water problem. That's what I haven't heard in this conversation.
Can we confirm
well, we
that?
have 14 residents, so we'll try to get in there tomorrow, I guess, and take samples, but from the complaints we've received to date, it's been from the folks that are on the 4-inch.
And Nino, did you say all 14 of those residents do have copper running from the 8-inch line?
Yeah, the people in the 8-inch
Yes.
would have copper.
For sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Have all the,
Nino, on Friday, Bill went out and tested both the hydrant on the 4-inch
He
and
did.
the hydrant on the 8-inch
Correct, for chlorine,
for chlorine, but also clarity, right?
yes.
So from the hydrant, Mr. Huber, the 8-inch was clear and was in the EPA standards, as was the 4-inch. The 4-inch was in EPA standards, but it's not as clear as the 8-inch.
No, there was discoloration.
So other than going in the houses that are currently attached to it, that's our only mechanism to check the water within the 8-inch currently.
Because the discoloration could be coming from the lateral. On the
Correct.
8-inch.
Correct.
You don't know? Well, you guys got a conundrum there, so.
have we received complaints, have we received complaints from all 31 on the 4-inch?
I don't believe so. We have not received complaints from all 31 residents.
No, that's what I gave to you earlier, Mayor. I'm sorry I didn't bring that down, I left it on my desk, there was probably,
We gotta do it. So do your due
mostly
diligence.
mid-block
That are
and,
causing discoloration. There's only a
Probably
few
not.
complaining.
Well, do your best, I guess. I mean, we understand the need, it has to be done. You have to figure a way whether I'd rather not tear up things if we don't have to. If we can put a new board that's more cost-effective to the house, let's do that. And instead of tear up an apron and put more concrete out, whatever's more cost-effective, I guess, is the smartest way to work the smartest way, right?
And
I mean,
one last thing. The 8-inch line, let's say everybody's now connected to it, it's going to provide adequate pressure, adequate service for the whole street.
Yeah.
The whole street.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Right.
So I would just suggest that, and I think move forward with it, and we're got an arrangement with the property owners to say, we have to do it. If you have galvanized, we would like to, either way, run whatever's the most cost-effective way to run a line in your house.
and for our purpose, we're not then and now, so that's why we're bringing it before the council, so I'm not sure if we need to have legislation accordingly, or just so you're on notice that this is our intent going forward with the project.
Well, the funds will be available to water capital, and there's money available to do that. So,
Definitely think we should give the residents.
It's a health
preferred
issue.
option, though.
what's the third option?
Deferred.
Oh, deferred.
Make sure that, if it's $1,000.
Well, I agree. I think you should do that too, because it's going to be a hardship.
And we have a past practice of doing it, so it just makes sense to me.
And I don't know if it's a hardship, if somebody wants to do it, I guess they do it. I mean, the deferred option, what are you gonna make somebody say, well, you gotta pay, because you can pay, but you don't have to pay, I mean, I don't know how that works.
No.
Yeah.
It's an option. Now you get complicated.
The other thing we're doing, not to belabor, the other thing we're doing is we'll use our staff, as Nino said, as much as possible to assist, to bring equipment, to haul stuff out, anything, because they're on time and materials, so the less time they have to use keeps our price low.
Okay.
And I appreciate you getting the lower rate too, but trying to help the
For the
homeowners out.
residents, right.
Mayor,
Yeah.
Patrick was instrumental and the field supervisors were as well. I mean, we just put this together from last Thursday afternoon and apologize to Greg about not getting the handout till a few minutes.
Well, the
before
more,
this
the
meeting.
more underground boring they could do with the boring machine rather than digging up something, I think I'm in favor of that.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any sense to dig somebody's yard up or dig an apron up if you can do it otherwise. Can we agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It's a no-brainer.
All right, there's nothing to vote on here, but.
Yes, there is.
Oh, there is? Whoa.
We have to do emergency legislation.
Well, we don't even know the details of, I guess, to allow them to do it, but we don't know the details of the cost. All the cost, yeah.
You have to vote on it.
Okay, do the motion?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
With the suggested funding of water capital.
Yeah, estimated 75,000, we're only two of them. but-
Second, on the emergency clause.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 7204, agreement to install sidewalks on Foundry Street.
This is mine. Last year, the Streets and Sidewalk Committee and the Finance Committee both approved a plan to put sidewalks on the west side of Foundry Street. Total length is about 1,850 feet. We did about 650 feet of that with our Foundry Street project. We couldn't do any more than that because it was outside the scope of the project, and with our grant, it wouldn't cover it. So we're preparing to do the final 1,200 feet to make that connection. And while we're preparing to do this, we became aware of a new property owner on the west side of the road that has plans to build, to develop that property sometime in the not too distant future. You know, we started thinking about it. They would be required to put this sidewalk in at that time at their cost, which would of course save the city a lot of money. Problem is, we don't know their timeline. They hope to do it as soon as possible. It might be next year, it might be 5 years from now, we don't know. So the mayor and I met with them and kind of discussed and came up with a proposal even to hopefully be a win-win on both sides, where over their frontage, which is about 2/3 of the total length of this, they would pay for 50% of the cost of that sidewalk, the city would pay for 50%. So we're each saving 50%, and we're getting the sidewalks done on our timeline.
Well, if they develop it, wouldn't they have to take out portions of the sidewalk because of the?
Yeah.
That's part of the agreement. They most likely will have two construction entrances, and they brought that up, and our proposal was that at that time, whenever it would be next year or 5 years from now, the city would be responsible for removing and replacing, if it's damaged, that length of sidewalk in their entrances, the drive entrances.
You estimated that at 2,500, is that right?
Somewhere around
Roughly.
2,500, yeah.
So it's not a significant amount, plus we'd have the use of the sidewalk immediately.
Thoughts?
I think it's a good, I think it's a good idea. I think the split is fortunate that somebody's willing to, make that, to split that cost. The only caveat I have is, we have streets in town that haven't had sidewalks ever on Lafayette Road. I mean, you cannot walk down Lafayette Road,
Right.
and we're not looking at a place where we're saying it may be 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. We're looking at, in my lifetime, it has been never. And I think, we have a really good sidewalk program, maintenance program council put in place with the administration. That's good. And I think Brian worked on the Foundry Street thing. I think it was a really big improvement for that area. And this is a good compromise. But why it is then that we don't want to address an area that is in worse condition and worse shape, and I would presume, I think the police left, but it's probably a bigger safety issue on Lafayette Road. If you go, I guess, to the corner of Lafayette Road and South Court Street and start heading west.
On the north side.
Start heading west on the
Well,
south side, John.
Even on the south side.
Yeah, on the south side. Well, if you head north if you go on the north side, you cross curb cuts that are you cross curb cuts for where people drive in that are about 300 feet wide,
Mhm.
where the sidewalk is not designated as different from the curb cut because it's all part one and the same because it's asphalt. But if you go on the south side, you literally have, you have a sidewalk that's either in such bad repair that it would be better if it didn't exist because you'll fall down on it, and you're against the curb, which doesn't exist either, and then you run out of sidewalk. And so this is a good thing. I mean, I would vote for this, and I think it's a great deal you worked out. However, then 2 weeks from now, I think we ought to take a look at Lafayette Road and see what we want to do there so that we can amend that situation. It's been unsafe. As I said, it's been unsafe, and Mark has brought this up, I don't know how many times, unsafe for decades.
We do have a grant, CDBG grant, to install sidewalks on that side of Lafayette to Oak Street, and that'll be done next year. It
Problem
only gets
is-
into Oak Street, it doesn't get them farther than that, but that's kind of the start.
Pat and I just talked about this, not even a week ago, I think it was, and went over and talked to Sandy about securing future grant money to continue those sidewalks on Lafayette Road. I mean, it doesn't do anything right
You guys
now,
are
but
coming up with some brilliant ideas. Too bad we've been talking about it for a couple of years. So if we're ready to make a move, hopefully we have enough council support
well, all
to
I'm
do it.
saying is, you know, we are talking about it. The only reason we went forward with the sidewalks on Foundry Street is because we were already doing a complete reconstruction, and
I
it made
gotcha.
sense.
I got you, but I mean,
That makes absolute sense, but property owners are responsible to put in the sidewalks, right?
That would be up to council.
What?
That would be up to council.
I mean, that's.
You could assess those property owners if you wanted.
But if
I
you
don't
look
think it's
at-
up to council. I think that already is the legislation exists.
No, we've put sidewalks on Liberty at no cost to any property owners, on the west side of Guilford, no cost to the property owners. We've done this before.
And generally, the sidewalks are put in, Bill, when the homes are developed.
Yeah, but these areas on
Not
Lafayette Road, there's no
20, 30
home
years.
gonna ever be developed. I mean,
Yeah, but somebody still owns that property.
yeah.
I mean, I just took a picture yesterday of a gentleman on an electric handicapped scooter in front of the National Guard Armory. He's right there on the edge. I mean, Pat gets calls from me all the time. There's a mother with I called him last week, a mother with a little wagon.
Yep,
She's in the
right.
barn.
Yeah.
You know, she's
You know, and I've
right
talked
there on the
about
road,
that
so.
many times.
And I'm glad you brought it up, Bill, but I mean, we gotta do something. I mean, this is, and you have residents that are, you know, some are low income out there. There's a Brookdale mobile home park out there, which is in our city, that don't have transportation, so they have to walk, you know, and I see it, I mean, I work over in the adjustment. I see it every day, and I'm just waiting for the call. Somebody's, and I don't even know the track record, but somebody's gonna get hit. And, I mean, it's long overdue, and it's, you know, it's gonna be a chore for Pat to come up with an estimate, but, I mean, I think we need to move on it. I mean, I think in my ward, I have one last section on 57 that, over by Twin Oaks is it, but, I mean, there's a mile, maybe not, close to, over from Oak Street west. I mean, there's sections in there, but once you get past, for sure, Ryan, I mean, you might have a little blip, and then it's, you know.
That's well
you're
before
on your
Ryan.
own.
It's
I'm
even
saying
before
there's
Ryan, you got
sections-
individual properties.
Yeah, there's little sections that don't connect, but yeah. But, I mean, if we want to get serious about it, I mean, I brought that up when we were talking about building parking done. We've got other areas in the city that need to be addressed, so. Basics.
This is a good plan, though. This is a good plan, and the sidewalk program for maintenance is a good plan as well. But I think, you know, what Mark has been talking about this for a
Well,
long
whose
time.
committee? That's Streets and Sidewalks. What's he having a meeting?
You looking at me for? I'm health safety.
Maybe you'll be Streets and Sidewalks.
Well, we can put it in the RCA and talk about it another day.
There you go.
I kind of like talking about it now.
But there's no answer right now, I guess, so.
It sounds like we should get it back on, we should talk about it sooner rather than later. We've got some momentum right now, some interest.
Talk to Danny. Get going on it. Have Danny meet with Pat, Pat get a proposal, of how much it's gonna cost, timing of it. We do it in segments, do so much a year, so at least something's happening over a period of time. And not
Let's
happening.
get it done. Not just piece it, let's just do it.
Do the whole thing.
Okay.
Comes out of Pat's carry forward. Or Ward
The
3.
the challenge with the state route sidewalks has always been, it's not like a neighborhood, they're not graded to accept sidewalks. Some days we're gonna have to do a little bit of a project
Oh, yeah.
bring that right away up to a point where, you know, it can support a sidewalk safely, which obviously some construction costs, but there will be a lot of easement or right-of-way acquisition costs as well. Just telling you, it's not gonna be as cheap as just putting a sidewalk in.
Gotcha. All right, we're gonna,
Well, we have to vote on.
we have to go vote on this one.
For the Audrey Street, move to approve
Second.
Any other questions?
With an emergency.
with the emergency clause.
Any other questions?
Second includes the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 17205, discussion on Save Historic Tax Credit Campaign. This came from an email from the mayor regarding the proposed changes in the tax code could have an adverse impact, of course, on, first of all, at least the historic tax credit issue. But there's other things that have been talked about, and we don't know where they're gonna go yet, of course, but it could have an adverse impact on economic development for one of them, and also our residents in our city. So this is one of the aspects that came up, and I asked the question, well, should we just be limited to the historic tax credits, or should it be broader that we object to certain modifications or proposed modifications by the House and the Senate to the tax code that are gonna adversely impact the city? What are people's thoughts?
How it starts is never how it ends up, so it's hard to tell.
Because I think that one of the things was the issuing the funding for, if I remember correctly, obtaining bonds to do certain projects that be eliminated. And that, of course, have an adverse, I don't think we could have done the Carlisle brake friction product would not happen with the change in the tax code, because it would take away the funding on that. So then we got the historic tax credits, which would affect downtown. And then we
Right,
got
but that's
another, then we got another adverse, possibly, I think it's an adverse, eliminating the deduction of the local municipal tax from your.
Well, right now, we're
federal
talking
tax.
about historic tax.
No, this is just brought up, and I didn't want to do one. I think,
Okay.
why would we do one resolution to do another resolution, another resolution? Should we do it all?
I guess because that's what it says on the
Yeah.
agenda.
So-
No, I just put it on here because that was the email that came in, and then I asked the mayor the question. There's a lot of other things that could adversely affect the city. Should we pass one resolution, or should we say that we disagree with a litany of things and send it, or how do you guys want to do it?
Well, I agree with your thought process, but until they've decided on this is the new tax package, how can we say, well, we're against? Can we word it broad enough?
Well, I guess you're right,
to
because this
encompass
is-
anything that adversely impacts the city?
I don't know how you can do that. But again, this historic tax credit may not even be the final.
You're right,
Right, so how are
exactly.
we gonna,
Well, I just bring it up now so we're cognizant of what's going on. So,
is this part of the adjustments that's gonna add 1.7 trillion to the national debt? Is this part of that?
well, 1.5.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure there's gonna be some changes.
I would imagine it would be.
I mean, for instance, historic is, I think, very important, especially for, like you said, our uptown area. I mean, how are you gonna entice people to redevelop and use old historic buildings if we don't have anything that's gonna help them out with the whole process, but.
So I guess it's kind of too soon in my mind, I guess, to, okay. We'll table that until we get more info. Last one is 17206, increased PO Lake County Sewer Co. Streets. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this one is not an emergency, it's a lateral transfer. I'd like to increase the PO for Lake County by $30,000. This is for our grouting program. To date, we've used approximately, we had two POs, a $25,000 PO that was awarded here on July 10th, and then a $14,000 PO. Of those two POs totaling $39,000, we used almost $34,000. So we have $5,000 left. We're able to grout 1,533 feet of pipe, and we were charged at a rate of $7.60 a gallon. We have variations in pipe sizes, 12-inch, 15, 18, 21, 27. Basically, we go in, we clean, we die test, camera, come back and saw cut the tar joints out, and then the grouting contractor, which, when I add that there's only one in this entire area. We chatted with the mayor about it. We had a PO with a gentleman out of Columbus, and they never showed up. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that are in the business for grouting. Expensive equipment. We have a lot of infrastructure issues that we need to address, so I appreciate your consideration on this request.
Discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else to come before finance? Hearing nothing, meeting is adjourned.